I extended a helping hand to my pregnant sister-in-law, Rebecca, offering assistance with her financial burdens. In a shocking turn of events, she covertly sold my jewelry, drained my bank account, and subsequently convinced my husband, Mark, that I was mentally unstable. He believed her without question. As I was forcibly removed from my own home, I heard her whisper, "This was easier than I thought." Weeks later, Rebecca received an unexpected letter at the door, which would change everything. I was 34 years old at the time, having been married to Mark for 6 years. We had no children, just the two of us building a life in Allentown, Pennsylvania. While we weren't affluent, we were comfortable. I worked full-time at a dental clinic, and Mark operated his HVAC business, often putting in long hours. We had built a foundation of trust. At least that's what I believed. Rebecca had always been somewhat of a chaotic presence in Mark's life. After dropping out of college, she drifted from job to job, and even moved back in with their mother. On multiple occasions, Mark, ever the supportive brother, felt that she simply needed stability. So, when she called one night in tears, claiming she was pregnant and had nowhere to go after her boyfriend left her, I urged Mark to let her stay with us. Perhaps, in my heart, I hoped that providing her with a peaceful environment would help her get back on her feet. She moved in the following day, and for the first couple of weeks, things went smoothly. She was quiet, often expressed her gratitude, and I took her to her OB appointments, bought her a pregnancy pillow, and helped her enroll in Medicaid. I gave her space to rest, believing she needed it. However, Rebecca always appeared exhausted, frequently rubbing her belly as if it pained her. She had a knack for feigning helplessness. One morning, I went to retrieve my mother's gold bracelet to wear for work, only to find it missing. I searched the entire house, checking every drawer and asking Rebecca if she had seen it. She feigned confusion, insisting she hadn't. "That's strange," she said. "Maybe I misplaced it." I reasoned with myself, choosing to believe her. But then, just 2 days later, my diamond stud earrings vanished. These were my cherished anniversary gift from Mark, always kept in a specific jewelry box in my closet. When I informed Mark, he shrugged it off, suggesting I might have misplaced them. I felt a surge of frustration, but bit my tongue, not wanting to upset Rebecca while she was pregnant. A week later, matters escalated further. I logged into our joint bank account to pay a bill, only to find a shocking balance of just 36 cents. Staring at the screen, I refreshed it, hoping it was a glitch, but our savings and checking accounts were both drained. In a panic, I called the bank, only to learn that multiple transactions had been made in the past week, all transferring funds to a new account opened in my name. I was bewildered and distressed, shaking as I rushed downstairs to confront Mark. He looked at me as if I were a stranger, asking why I would do such a thing. "I'm not hiding anything," I yelled, insisting that someone had accessed my information. Just then, Rebecca entered the room, wearing one of my sweatshirts, her hand resting protectively on her belly. "I'm sorry," she whispered, "but she's been acting strangely." I heard her crying in the bathroom. Her voice trembled as she continued. "Yesterday, she accused me of stealing her bracelet. I think she's having a breakdown." Mark's expression shifted. Suddenly, he viewed me as if I were the unstable one. "You need to rest," he instructed, suggesting I was not well. I attempted to argue, desperate for him to understand, showing him my texts and call logs. But he dismissed my concerns. They called my sister, Gina, to come and pick me up. I reluctantly agreed to stay elsewhere for a while, not even given the chance to pack properly. Mark stood with his arms crossed as I hastily gathered my belongings. Tears streamed down my face, blurring my vision. Just before I left, Rebecca leaned in close and whispered, "This was easier than I thought." Chills ran down my spine. I turned to Mark, trying to explain her words, but he shook his head, insisting, "She's pregnant. Why would she lie?" In a state of shock, I reflected on all the support I had given her, the rides, groceries, prenatal vitamins, and realized she had betrayed my trust in the worst way possible. At my sister's house, I stayed in the guest room, consumed by grief for 3 days, not eating or speaking much. But then, anger ignited within me. I meticulously reviewed every charge on our account, compiling a list of the unauthorized transfers. I filed a fraud report with the bank and a police report as well. On a hunch, I contacted a pawn shop I had passed a few days earlier. They had security footage that would prove my worst fears. There she was, Rebecca, visibly pregnant, entering the pawn shop with my jewelry box. She sold my mother's bracelet, my anniversary earrings, and the necklace Mark had given me during the early days of our relationship. She displayed her ID, smiled, and walked out as if she hadn't just shattered my life. I captured screenshots and requested the footage from the pawn shop manager, along with a copy of the transfer form from my bank, which bore a signature that was nothing like mine. With evidence in hand, I devised a plan. I drafted a concise letter outlining the situation, enclosing the footage. I printed the screenshots, a copy of the transfer authorization, a list of my missing jewelry, and a notification from the bank confirming the fraud investigation. I mailed it certified to our home, addressed to both Mark and Rebecca. 2 days later, Rebecca signed for it. My sister, driving by the house around noon, reported seeing Rebecca at the door, frozen in place as she stared at the documents. But that was just the beginning. I anticipated a call, perhaps an apology, but instead I was met with silence. Days passed, 2, then 4, without a word from either Mark or Rebecca. It felt as if they were trying to erase the entire incident from existence, and that deafening silence only deepened my resolve.
Subsequent to this, I received messages from her mother, Frances, accusing me of being heartless. I remained resolute in my stance, refusing to engage further. I reiterated that the 30-day notice was non-negotiable and that arrangements needed to be made for her departure. The true escalation occurred in the business realm. Bruce's threats were not idle. They were more insidious than I had anticipated. Instead of a call from my primary client, I found that one of my key software suppliers, a company I had maintained a strong relationship with for years, suddenly curtailed my credit line, citing market volatility. My account manager expressed regret but stood firm in the decision. A week later, a mid-sized client decided to pause a promising new project, citing unsettling rumors regarding my company's stability. Bruce was not making direct defamatory calls. Rather, he was sowing discord. As a member of a notable local business association and a charity board member, he was leveraging his network to disseminate damaging whispers about my company, crafting a narrative that depicted it as unstable. This tactic was both clever and alarmingly effective, as it relied on hearsay and insinuation elements that were difficult to challenge legally. Last Friday marked the end of the 30-day period, which was moving day and brought with it a new wave of drama surrounding my most treasured possession. I received an email from Madison that contained a spreadsheet detailing her belongings, which included my television and an expensive espresso machine I had purchased long before meeting her. At the very bottom of the list were 2 words that sent a chill through me: grandfather's watch. This was a vintage 1960s Omega Seamaster, my grandfather's prized possession. After his passing, I had it professionally restored, making it my sole tangible connection to him. Madison had once admired it and had worn it to an event, but had no rightful claim to it. This was not a misunderstanding. It was a calculated act of malice on her part. Knowing I couldn't be present for the move out, anticipating that the confrontation would be messy, I enlisted the help of my friend Billy, who possesses an extraordinary calmness, along with his lawyer father, to oversee the proceedings. I provided them with a clear guideline. Only her belongings were to be packed. I had receipts and photographs to substantiate my ownership of everything else, with the watch being the focal point of contention. When Madison realized the watch was not included, she reportedly became enraged. She claimed I had gifted it to her as an engagement present, a new family heirloom. Her mother, who accompanied her, fully supported this false narrative. Billy's lawyer father, however, calmly stated the facts. Jordan's position is that this is a family heirloom from his side, and it is not part of your shared property. If you wish to contest this, the appropriate course of action is through the courts, specifically a small claims filing. We have documentation proving his prior ownership. The legal language effectively cut through the theatrics, leaving them unable to intimidate their way through the situation. They departed furious and defeated, but not before Madison shouted at Billy, warning him that I wouldn't get away with this. The whispers regarding my business, the attempts to claim my property, and the emotional manipulation all formed part of a coordinated effort to undermine me. They assumed that my quiet demeanor signified passivity, but they were mistaken. They had targeted both my professional and familial legacies, and the dynamics of the game had shifted in the months that followed. The situation did not so much settle as it did rearrange itself. This period became a masterclass in discreet, methodical self-preservation. My narrative is not one of fire or revenge, but rather a calculated dismantling of the campaign waged against me. The subtle attacks on my business continued in hushed tones. I lost the client who had put the project on hold, resulting in a significant financial blow. Bruce's strategy was effective. He was fostering an atmosphere of instability around me, which was costing me both revenue and sleep. However, I found a productive outlet for my simmering anger through research. I did not search for grand secrets, a fraud. Rather, I began with public records, accessible to any citizen. Bruce's company website was replete with self-aggrandizing claims about their unwavering ethics and community partnerships. Over the course of several weeks, I dedicated evenings to examining court filings and business registries. I uncovered a troubling pattern. Bruce's company had been taken to small claims court 6 times in the past 3 years by various small-scale subcontractors, electricians, painters, landscapers. The claims were consistently for unpaid final invoices, typically ranging from $5,000 to $10,000. He would either ignore the claims until a judgment was entered or settle at the last moment for a reduced amount. He was essentially bullying small business owners, choking their cash flow, aware that they could not afford a drawn-out legal battle. This information became my leverage, revealing the truth behind his facade as a community leader. My counteroffensive was not a single action, but a series of strategic, indirect maneuvers. The first step was to reshape the social narrative. I refrained from engaging with Madison's drama online. Instead, I had discreet one-on-one conversations with mutual friends who mattered. I did not present spreadsheets or play recordings. I simply conveyed my side of the story with honesty. I spoke of the prenup ultimatum, the attempt to claim my grandfather's watch, and the subsequent rumors harming my business. The truth, delivered without hysteria, carries its own weight. While the shift in social perception did not happen overnight, it gradually began to turn in my favor. The second action involved catalyzing change. One of the subcontractors who had pursued Bruce in court was a small family-run electrical company. Known for its stellar reputation, let's call them Spark Electrical. I drafted an anonymous letter and sent it to the owner of Spark Electrical via postal mail from a postbox in a different town. The letter outlined the other 5 small claims. Cases against Bruce's company, complete with case numbers I discovered in public records. It detailed the whispers I had encountered regarding my own company's stability, suggesting a pattern of predatory behavior. I concluded the letter with a straightforward question: how many other small businesses has he done this to? I included no personal information, providing only the kindling and matches. It was up to them to ignite the fire. About a month later, a local business journal published an article titled, "Are Development Titans Squeezing Small Businesses?" The piece focused on the alleged patterns of non-payment by local contractors. The journalist had been tipped off by the owner of Spark Electrical, who, now aware he was not alone, had organized other small business owners. My name was not mentioned. The story centered entirely on Bruce and his purported history of taking advantage of smaller entities. The fallout was not an explosive spectacle, but a gradual, grinding decline for Bruce. The article severely tarnished his public image, which he relied upon for securing investors and gaining city council approvals. The narrative painted him as a bully. A major charity board, of which he was a member, accepted his resignation. Shortly thereafter, an investor for an upcoming project retracted their funding, citing concerns about reputational risk. While he is not ruined, still a wealthy man, his influence has waned, his reputation tarnished, and he is now mired in a PR crisis of his own making. The whispers he initiated about me have transformed into a loud outcry regarding him. For Madison, her social sphere contracted. The article regarding her father's behavior confirmed many suspicions about her entitled and grasping nature. While she did not become a complete pariah, her social standing undoubtedly suffered. The last I heard, she was dating someone, but not the high-flying CEO type that she and her family had anticipated. She continues to post vague, melancholic updates online, which now seem less like expressions of tragedy and more like bitter reflections. As for me, this was not a clear-cut victory. I lost a client and faced financial setbacks, and the stress was considerable. Nevertheless, my company remained stable, and the rumors about me subsided once the source of the toxicity was revealed. I learned a harsh lesson about vetting those I allow into my life. There is no overwhelming sense of triumphant joy. Mostly, I feel fatigued, but also profoundly relieved. I have protected what I built. My grandfather's watch sits on my dresser, ticking steadily, a quiet reminder of what is real and enduring. The engagement was a misstep, yet the manner in which I terminated it stands as my most significant business decision to date. I chose to safeguard my foundation, and ultimately, that is what remains intact.